Hi everyone. This video is going to be muscles of the hand. Now there are quite a few muscles of the hand. However, we are not going to be responsible for the origins, insertions, and actions of all of them. We will talk about muscles of the thumb because there are actually 8 muscles specific to the thumb that control it in different directions. There are 4 small muscles and 4 longer muscles. The longer muscles are on the external surface here, and the smaller muscles are actually right in this little area here. We'll talk about some pinky movers, and we'll talk about some of the deep, little teeny muscles in between the metacarpals. Right now, I just kind of like to orient you to the hand. You already know the bones, right? But we actually have some fleshy landmarks that we need to talk about. So first and foremost, I just mentioned that you have 4 small muscles in here. This little area of the palm is called the thenar eminence, T-H-E-N-A-R, thenar eminence. This area right here. It's the fleshy part of the thumb. Okay, all those little muscles in there. Your opposing muscles sit in here. And then on the opposite side, this fleshy area right in here, this is the hypothenar eminence. And the hypothenar eminence has a lot of your pinky movers, okay? So thenar eminence and hypothenar eminence. And in the middle here, of course, is going to be your carpal tunnel. Superficial to the carpal tunnel, of course, is going to be a lot of tendon. We already saw that with previous videos. There are plenty of tendons that work their way into the hand and into the fingers here. But we also have a retinaculum that attaches from here to here and holds all those lovely tendons in place. Remember, retinacula is like Scotch tape for the body. It holds tendons in place, keeps them there, keeps them from moving around too much. Okay, so let's get started. We are on page 149. And we're going to start with the book here. Okay. So here is just a palmar view. This is the retinaculum that I mentioned just a second ago, holding all the little tendons down. These right in here, these little muscles represent the thenar eminence, and these muscles over here represent the hypothenar eminence. As I mentioned, in between the metacarpals, you have little muscles. Those are called lumbricals. This is a good time to bring up the term intrinsic versus extrinsic. Intrinsic muscles are ones that are situated within the area that they affect. So let's put that over here. Intrinsic musculature. They are located or situated within the area that affect or effect. Yeah, effect. Okay. Let's see here. So the lumbricals are in between each of the metacarpals. And they're just called lumbricals. You also have some slightly deeper muscles to those that are also intrinsic. So extrinsic muscles are muscles that sort of originate, insert outside of the area that they affect. And what I mean by that is most of the muscles that we've studied so far are extrinsic muscles. They are not necessarily within the structure that they affect. So the lumbricals are within the hand and they affect the hand. Muscles like flexor pollicis longus and flexor digitorum superficialis, they are not within the wrist, right? They are outside of the wrist, so they are extrinsic muscles. You do need to know the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic musculature, only, by definition here, okay? All right. So here is a posterior view or a dorsal view of the hand. And again, you have the little lumbricals here. You have adductor pollicis. You have opponens pollicis. Opponens digiti minimi. Digiti minimi refers to the little pinky. This is your digiti minimi. Okay. So like I said, we're not going to do origins and insertions as far as memorization of those pieces of information. We will talk about them a little bit, but we're mostly going to talk about the actions of the muscles. All right, so let's talk about some of these muscles of the thumb here. You have 8 thumb movers, and that's pretty important because for humans, movement of the thumb is to oppose the digits, right? We have opposable thumbs. You've heard that before. That's what this means. We can oppose each of our digits with our opposable thumbs. Well, the unique thing about humans isn't really our opposable thumbs. Sorry to disappoint you there. Other creatures have them too. The unique thing about humans is that we can precisely oppose our thumbs. So we can actually do this. This is called a precision grip. And as far as I know, we are the only creature that can do this particular thing, where we can oppose all of our digits to our thumbs, not just some of them, not just the palm. We can oppose individual digits, okay? So that's what makes us unique with our opposable thumbs, not the fact that we have opposable thumbs, because higher order apes also have opposable thumbs. Chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans, they also have opposable thumbs. They just don't have the precision grip. Go us. Okay. So how is that possible? Well, we have these muscles called opponens pollicis. Opponens pollicis allows us to move our thumb across the palm of our hand, specifically to touch the other digits. It means opposition, right? Opponens, and that is what it does. It opposes the other digits. So we also have adductor pollicis, which kind of works with opponens pollicis to help bring our thumbs across our palms. And then, of course, we have some of the longer ones. We'll have to take a look at those in a minute. Okay. But like I said, those 4 little short ones sit right in the thenar eminence here. And then on the hypothenar eminence, we have opponens digiti minimi. So that one's pretty important too, because that one allows the pinky to come across. Okay, you can see opponens digiti minimi. It's not real strong, but you can see it right about there when I try to bring my pinky across. Okay. Here are some of the deeper intrinsic muscles. We have 3rd and 4th dorsal interossei. Interossei means between the bones. Remember, inter means between. So we have dorsal interossei, we'll have palmar interossei as well, and they are little intrinsics between the bones. And it really, what they allow movement in this kind of way, okay? All right, on the opposite side, you can see we've got a lot of tendons, specifically for extensor digitorum. But here we have some other interossei, and then adductor pollicis is deep to those on that side. So we actually have this webbing in here, right? Where we have quite a bit of muscle, and they go in different directions, but ultimately they help move the thumb towards the other fingers. Okay. This lovely little one over here is abductor digiti minimi, which allows you to do this. See, this actually contracts. That one right there contracts when you try to move your pinky away from the rest of your fingers. And trust me, at first, that is very difficult to do. So if you're at home trying to do this with me, and I know that you are, up and down is hard, but you probably learned maybe how to do it like when you were doing shadow puppets. And here's a dog, bark, 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 right? Or not. Maybe your dog goes like this, bark, bark, bark. Either way, that's abductor digiti minimi. Allows you to do shadow puppets of dogs and things. Okay, so I want to talk about the long muscles of the thumb because these are the ones that are extrinsic here. They are abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis longus and brevis, and these are on page 151 and 152. You also have flexor pollicis longus that's going to be on the opposite side. So abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis longus and brevis are actually kind of very close together here. You can see the origins here, here, and then up here on the radius, right? So posterior surface of the radius, interosseous membrane, posterior surface of the ulna, posterior surface of the radius. Oh dear. Goodness gracious, let's not. Oh, what did I do? Huh. All right, well, there you go. I just highlighted stuff. And anyway, so these muscles originate, roughly halfway up the arm. But again, what they're going to do is only really affect the thumb and the wrist here. So abductor pollicis longus is going to do exactly what it says it's going to do. It's going to abduct the thumb. Pollicis refers to thumb, just as hallux or hallucis referred to the big toe. So this is your pollice. Say hello. Hello. So abductor pollicis longus is going to abduct the thumb and extend the thumb, which I'm having a hard time doing, and abduct the wrist. Okay. Now you can see on my hand, I've got these crazy tendons right there, right? Well, there's a couple of them, and one of them is abductor pollicis longus. It's not this one though. Not quite that one. Okay. Abductor pollicis longus. Now we have extensor pollicis longus and brevis. Obviously, one's shorter, one's longer, and they are going to extend the thumb and extend the thumb. Wait a minute. What? Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, we have extended the thumb twice, but it's because you have the two different joints on your thumb. So you have the interphalangeal joint, which is this one. Okay. And I have the crazy hitchhiker thumb, so mine extends a lot, right? My thumb goes the wrong direction that way, but that's because of extensor pollicis longus. Extends the thumb. Again, we have the metacarpophalangeal joint and the carpometacarpal joint. So we're talking about this one and this one. Okay, so between pollicis longus and brevis, we get extension here, and extension here. So it pulls them all out. You see what I mean? Okay. Now, these three tendons make up something called, I know this is going to sound weird, but let's no, I don't want to add copy. Ooh, yellow. Love it. Okay, so anyway, what I only wanted to highlight was this, but we'll just take that off there. See, ta-da. I only wanted to highlight this piece right here, anatomical snuff box, okay? The anatomical snuff box is this area in the thumb right here. Let me just stop the share for a minute. I can show you better. So it's this area right here in the thumb. See that little pocket right there? So you have this tendon, this big tendon right here, right? And you have this smaller tendon over here. And actually there's two tendons here and one tendon over here. But anyway, this is the anatomical snuff box. It's a little dip made from the abductor pollicis and extensor pollicis longus and brevis tendons. And historically speaking, it was actually used for snuff. So I don't know if you're familiar with snuff. You probably aren't because it's a little antiquated. But anyway, it's powder with nicotine in it anyway. And you'd put it in this little area right here and you'd sniff it. That's why it was called snuff. It's just like caffeine powder and, or not caffeine powder, nicotine powder. And that's what you do. You sniff it. So you have a built-in little sniffy thing right here. But that's what the anatomical snuff box is. And you typically, people had snuff boxes. They were little silver things and you'd take a pinch of snuff and that's what you would do. But I am not familiar with that at all. So I have no experience whatsoever. And that's the best I can tell you with that. But you have anatomical snuff box made from those tendons. So let's go back and see those again. Okay. Yep. Abductor pollicis longus. That's going to be the one over here. That's this one. See? That one right there. And then the extensor digitorum, or not digitorum, extensor pollicis longus and brevis tendons are going to be right here. They look like one tendon, but there actually is two. They're just so close together. It's kind of like the extensor indices. Remember, I had to move my finger off to the side to see it. This one's kind of the same way. I don't know if I can show you both of them. No, it still looks like one big tendon. There are two there, though. They're just really difficult to pick out. I can see two if I'm looking at myself this close, but otherwise I don't think you can on the screen. No. Okay. That's all right. Anyway, those are the tendons that make up the anatomical snuff box. And now you know, now that's a thing you know. Useless information, but fascinating nonetheless. So here are those tendons that I was talking about, and they make that little cavity right there. All right, so flexor pollicis longus. Obviously, this is going to be on the palmar side, right? Because it's a flexor. So we have anterior surface of the radius and interosseous membrane, and then the base of the distal phalanx of the thumb is the insertion. Well, of course. Okay, this is flexor pollicis longus, so it's going to flex it. Flexor pollicis brevis is going to be one of the ones in the thenar eminence. So these are going to flex the thumb and flex the thumb. We saw this already, we know what's up. So flex the thumb at the interphalangeal joint. So when you do this, that's flexor pollicis longus. And when you do this, it's also flexor pollicis longus, but it engages some of the other muscles, the brevis and stuff in there, in the thenar eminence there. So it's much easier just to say that flexor pollicis longus does this. Okay, so those are the muscles of the thumb, the long muscles of the thumb, excuse me. I am going to just very briefly talk about some of the short muscles of the thumb. Oh, look, anatomical snuff box. See, there you go. Okay, so short muscles of the thumb. Here we are, flexor pollicis brevis, as I said. You have abductor pollicis brevis. So abduction takes the thumb away from the midline. You have flexor pollicis brevis, which flexes the thumb and assists in opposition of the thumb. Yes, because flexion of the thumb and opposition of the thumb look very similar. Okay, it's hard to just flex the thumb without opposing it as well. So you have abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, that's in there too, and adductor pollicis. Adductor pollicis is the real big one in here. Adductor pollicis is the one that kind of gets you when you massage too much, or when you're holding on to something for too long, you know, or when you actually start working on your own hand and you're really working in this area and you're like, oh, that hurts so much. That's most likely adductor pollicis. Okay. So adductor pollicis, opponens pollicis, abductor pollicis, and flexor pollicis brevis are the four muscles of the thenar eminence, okay? So I want you to know what they are, and I want you to know what Aponens pollicis does. But outside of that, I don't need you to know any more specific information, okay? Isn't that nice? You don't have to learn the O's, I's, and A's of those. Although, you know, to be perfectly honest, the actions are in the names of the muscles. I mean, that's kind of easy. Okay, so this is just somebody palpating the thenar eminence on a partner and feeling the contraction of Aponens pollicis specifically. Okay, so this is what I was talking about before, where we have opposable thumbs, and so do other apes, chimpanzees, orangutans, right? I had mentioned that they can do this too. They have the types of muscles that can oppose and bring their thumb across their palm, but what they don't have is that precision grip. So you see how small the thumb is, right, compared to the fingers? We have much larger thumbs compared to our fingers, so we can reach, basically. Chimpanzees, orangutans, gorillas, you know, all those kinds of apes can go like this. They can curl their fingers down and they can bring their thumb across, but they cannot individually touch each of their digits. Okay, so like I said, that is something that only we can do, that precision grip, which allows us to use tools in a different way. All right, I'm going to go to page 159 and briefly discuss the hypothenar eminence. Okay, so we have the little tiny muscles on the side. We have abductor digiti minimi and flexor digiti minimi brevis. It's going to flex the pinky. And Aponens digiti minimi. Okay, again, I don't need you to know the O's, I's, and A's, but the actions are in the name. You can tell what they do. And you can even do it yourself, like abductor digiti minimi, flexor, flex, flex, flex. You know, you have independent use of your pinky and your thumb, but the rest of your fingers are, well, they're tied together, basically. So Aponens digiti minimi. So those are the muscles in the hypothenar eminence here. Hypo, of course, means below, right? So we're just saying that this is below the thenar. You know, if you're drawing a line like this. I mean, I think they're kind of equal in most people, but I didn't make that up. So we'll go with what it says. All right. Okay, so your book then goes on to talk about the ligaments of the forearm and hand. So I'm going to stop this here. You notice I skipped the lumbricals a little bit in the middle. That was just because you could see them on previous slides, and we don't necessarily need to go into detail there. One of the things that I do want to show you real quick is actually in your visible body. You have the Human Anatomy Atlas, right? And you can make it move. So we have extension of the thumb. So here are thumb extenders that we were talking about. Right, that's abductor pollicis longus. We have extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, right? And you can see how they pull on those thumb joints to provide extension. So don't forget that we have visible body program. I have it set up differently in your D2L, where you can see it's going to be muscle actions. But remember, you do these too. So if I move myself out of the way for a second, right, we can see muscles that help to curl the fingers in. Here's our lovely lumbricals, right? And our dorsal interossei. Yeah, beautiful. Love to be able to see these in motion. It's very hard to visualize what these do in your book, okay? Ah, yes. This is the palmar aponeurosis. We've talked about this in previous videos, but I said I didn't have any reference for layers. Well, here it is, okay? So it is superficial to some of the deeper muscles. So to the intrinsic muscles, you can see that it covers them there. Okay, so if you're trying to put layers together in your head, this one, the palmar fascia, palmar aponeurosis would be more superficial to the lumbricals here. Okay, so don't forget about your D2L. Make sure that you're taking a look at that, especially for the volume of muscles that we have in this unit. It's important to know where they are and what they do. Okay? You're going to be working with a lot of clients who have forearm and hand issues because everybody works with computers and devices these days and for hours at a time. So this is definitely some work that you will be called to do in your practice. So it's important to know which muscles do what, so you can help assess and work efficiently on your clients. Okay, I'm not sharing the screen anymore. I am done talking. Have a nice day.